Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. One exercise that we need to do now is that before you go with the recording, you should at least read the article on your own first. So, those who have subscribed for the newspaper, read the article and then note down the central idea, whatever you can and you have extracted, and then match it with the recording, the main idea that I give you here. Right? So those who really want to enrich their understanding and all would do this exercise from now on. So let's start with what we have today in the first editorial of the Indian Express of January 24th, 2023. So the heading, fine tune the code. Let's see what code they are talking about. The introduction of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, that is IBC, in 2016 brought about a structural change in the resolution architecture in the country. Right? Structural change I'll discuss. However, despite its promise, however को underline कर लेते हैं, हम structural change को समझ सकते हैं कि it is a basic structure that gets changed. Right? It is not only a cosmetic change. I'll come up with another word that is a superficial or a cosmetic change. So cosmetic changes would mean, right, roughly bringing in a few changes here and there. Right, you have heard about the organizational changes, the organizational structure also. So the organization also, when it changes the structure, that would be to bring about a structural change in the organization. जो basic जो उसका ढांचा होता है उसमें changes लेके आना उसे structural change कहते हैं, right? Otherwise, it is only a superficial change, that is the cosmetic changes. So, this is the introduction of this code in 2016, brought about a structural change in the resolution architecture in the country. However, despite its promise, the IBC in its functioning has fallen short of expectation. Here comes the author's point. So, they have brought about a structural change, but still there are some limitations, some where they are lagging behind. So, realizations of creditors have been lower than expectations, and the strict timelines prescribed in the code for resolving cases have not been adhered to. मतलब एक माइनस था यहाँ पर, एक और माइनस यहाँ पर. According to the most recent data, the total realizable value in cases resolved till September 2022 stood at only 30.8% of the admitted claims. The data also shows that 64% of the ongoing cases have crossed 270 days. In fact, as per reports, the average time taken for cases to be resolved has risen. Average time has risen, driven in part by, that means, what was the reason? More time being spent on the associated litigation. On its part, the government has tried repeatedly to address the code's shortcomings. Last week, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs invited comments on a fresh set of changes it is considering to bring about in the code, and this is a welcome step. Now, if you understand the structure of this paragraph, there is nothing that cannot be understood in a single reading. One thing that it says that it is bringing about a structural change in the code, that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Then the author says, so here it says about the structural change that becomes a part of the point, that is a fact, you can say, a premise, right? And here when he says that they have fallen short, becomes the author's opinion कि जो expected था उतना नहीं हुआ है. क्या नहीं हुआ है, it becomes the reasoning in this part. If you remember, yesterday also I gave you the technique of reading and understanding, that was prep, right? So the second part or the middle part of the paragraph is actually giving you only the data. The data is included in the reasoning or the logic that the author gives, or the data is used to consolidate the point that the author had stated. And what was the point made was in the first paragraph, where he says that, see, the structural change has been brought about in the code, but still it falls short of expectations. That is the point, and how it falls short is given in the reasoning here. Then comes the author's opinion that, see, the ministry, the government is working towards all this, but then, and this is a welcome step. तो यहाँ पे आकर वो एक थोड़ा सा पॉजिटिव वाली बात बोल देता है गवर्नमेंट के लिए कि it is coming up with a step, and what was the step? That they invited comments on a fresh set of changes that are going to bring about in the IBC. Right? So now the point is very clear, I suppose. Here. Now, the proposals are intended at addressing the gaps or shortcomings. Proposals ये second paragraph है, पर ये इसका continuation first paragraph के last line से है. और वो क्या था last two lines में? उसे कहा था कि government is going to take a few steps to bring about inviting the people for discussion. Right here, invited discussion comments on a fresh set of changes. We're talking about the same thing, and what changes are being proposed is here. The proposals are intended at addressing the gaps or shortcomings in the code's functioning. जो problem author को थी सबसे पहले वो. First, अब ये हैं proposals. So first, second, and third. Let us see what they are. The changes aim to reduce the time for admitting cases and streamline the process by pushing for greater reliance on data with information utilities. Okay, if you remember, first paragraph mein we had done that the time taken is increasing now. Why? Because of the time taken in the related litigation. So now the government is trying to reduce this gap or shortcoming by it aims to reduce the time. Then, considering the delays in admitting cases and the implications of the recent judicial interventions, this proposal seeks to remove ambiguity and bring about predictability in the process. Now, if we don't know the meaning of ambiguity or predictability, तो दोनों का meaning एक दूसरे पे dependent है. Ambiguity is something that is a doubt or it is not clear, it is quite vague. You have no clarity on it. The predictability is you have clarity and you are able to state कि ठीक है अब ये होगा. ठीक है तो वो this is what they want to remove. They want to remove the ambiguity and establish or bring about the predictability in the process. ठीक है तो यही बात हो जाती है streamline करके कि streamline is to become very organized sort of. Now, second thing that they do is it has also been proposed that the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process that was introduced for MSME, that is micro, small, and medium enterprises, now be extended to other firms as well. So this process was only for the MSME. Now it should be extended to other firms. While such a proposal should be appealing, so far very few cases have been admitted under this. Right? देखो, जब author ने ये sentence कहा, while such a proposal should be appealing, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? अब देखो यहाँ से एक critical reasoning का question बन सकता है. Let's see if they assumed that if this is a proposal about what that apart from the MSME, it should be now extended to other firms as well. So if this was a proposal, according to the author, it is assumed that the people would be readily taking it or going for it. This was expected, this was assumed, but what was the reality? So far, very few cases have been admitted under this. Right? So here, very easily you can come up with the assumption that the author has taken when he gives this sentence. Third, the changes proposed also seek to address some of the issues that have arisen in the resolution of the real estate firms. A distinction is now being made between a particular real estate project and the larger corporate entity. The government's rationale for doing so is that means the government's reasoning. Okay, reason, rationale means a reason or logic. For doing so is that this could allow the corporate entity to continue on other projects while the stressed projects can be tackled separately. तो वो रियल एस्टेट फर्म से रिलेटेड उन्होंने कुछ प्रपोजल किया है और ये जो तीन प्रपोजल्स उन्हें किए हैं एंड द एम एंड द रीजन फॉर इट all these proposals are to be discussed, right? What was given in the previous, that they have invited comments on a fresh set of changes, and these are the proposed changes that our author gives in the second paragraph. So now the structure of the paragraph becomes that in the first he comes up with the point that the code is introducing many new things, but then it is falls short of expectations. The government is taking a step in removing these gaps, and this is a welcome step. How is the government doing it? Given in the second paragraph, 1, 2, 3. Right, that is the first proposal, second proposal, and the third proposal. Now, the proposals have also sought to bring about changes to the manner in which proceeds will be distributed. How are these proceeds going to be distributed? That is also being proposed to bring changes. So creditors will receive proceeds up to the liquidation value in line with the priority as prescribed under Section 53 of the code, and any surplus over such liquidation value will be ratably distributed between all creditors in the ratio of their unsatisfied claims. Now, see, this is regarding what they are talking about, how the manner in which the proceeds will be distributed. Now, see, there would be many people who might understand this topic very well, who might not understand the topic very well. What you need to do when you are coming up with the reading of the article is, and also when you need to mark the answers for the questions based on these articles or such articles, you should be able to use only the basics of language. तो इस पैराग्राफ उन्होंने क्या कहा है? The manner in which the proceeds will be distributed, that is what you need to understand. Such proposals, now it is talking about all the proposals which seek to bring about, sorry, this proposal only, changes in the distribution of proceeds need to be carefully examined for the wider implications. That means whatever is proposed, that these are the changes to be brought about in the manner in how the proceeds will be distributed. So what are the proceeds? Proceeds are the profits, the gains that they get, right? How they will be distributed, but then this needs a careful examination. Why? Because it has wider implications. So implications का मतलब हो गया effects, impacts. ये अगर ज्यादा होगा तो careful examination के बाद ही ऐसे proposals को हम actually implement कर पाएंगे या करना चाहिए उन्हें. So changes to the code should, after all, be driven by the objective of improving its functioning and outcomes. So outcome are the implications. ये रहा आपका connection. Right. So what the author says now, this is again given by the author. So what does he say now? Let's see, whatever changes have been proposed, or even if the government has invited comments on it. So whatever changes to be brought about in the code should be driven by. That means what should be the aim, what should be the objective to improve its functioning. उसका process smooth हो, efficient हो जाए. तभी वो word हमारे पास एक था streamline, right? So that should be the motive, that should be the objective to improve the functioning of it, and of course to understand the outcomes of it. So this should be done keeping in mind the incentive structures of all the stakeholders. That means all the related parties to this code. Right? So the last two sentences given by the author, you have the point from the very first paragraph, first part. The remaining paragraph gave you the data there. That is the reasoning. Second paragraph is actually all the rationale that the author has given about the proposals that are made by the government. Right? And third paragraph, the author is coming up with his point along with one of the proposals, another that has been extended by the government there for the code. So we come up with the main idea now. So we have understood the passage. I hope it has become clear to you how we are actually coming up with this. Now see what I have done now again is from the first paragraph when you are reading, this is uh, these are the words or phrases that you should have underlined when you're reading it on a hard copy, right? Otherwise, these are the words or phrases where you should have focused on or you should focus. So a structural change is they find it's talking about the change brought about in the code. Short of expectations, उसका next point हो गया था उसी में. Government has tried repeatedly to address the code's shortcomings. It has invited comments. So this becomes the way, the manner in which the government is trying repeatedly to address this shortcoming. So according to the author, there has been a structural change there. They are short of expectations. Government is trying to improve on it and it is inviting comments, and this is a welcome step. So combine these phrases together and compact sentence made. So you have the first point. Second says, now what is the government doing? It is trying to address the gaps. Why? How? First, the objective is to reduce the time for admitting, pushing for greater reliance on data, considering the delays and the implications, the pre-packaged now to be extended apart from this MSME, And then to address some of the issues that have arisen in the resolution of the real estate firms, ये इसका third वाला proposal था. So this set, the second paragraph is giving you about proposals and their objective. Right? This first paragraph is on an optimistic note. To bring about changes in the manner in which proceeds will be distributed, that was the next proposal. And they need to be carefully examined for the wider implications. Objective is functioning and outcomes. This should be done by keeping in mind the incentive structures of all the stakeholders. So one, there was a lack of, there were some limitations. It was lagging behind in the expectations. Government is taking a step. What is being proposed, given in 1.5 paragraphs, according to the author, this should be done and it should be carefully examined. Why? Because it has very quite a lot of implication, you can say, wide implications. Fine. So the passage is done. ठीक है ऐसा इतना पढ़ने पे ऐसा लगता है कि यार मतलब 5-7 मिनट में तो खुद भी पढ़ के समझ लेते हैं यू नीड टू कम टू दैट लेवल कि you read and you are able to filter out that quickly. So here comes the subheading. Attempts to improve IBC's functioning are welcome. First, some of the proposals need more careful examination. Combine all this together and you get your central idea. Getting it? Go on. So today we don't have a lot of vocabulary, but yes, I've taken 2 or 3 terms here again. I'll start from here. Insolvency की बात हो रही थी, तो insolvency means the liquidation or the failure. Insolvent यानी दिवालिया निकल जाना, दिवाला निकल जाना, वैसा. So if this is understood, then you can come up with the word liquidation. Liquidation is where the company becomes insolvent and then all the assets are declared and they are sold and then the payment is done to the creditors and all. वो सब हो जाता है. वो liquidation हो जाता है. Those who are following commerce stream will definitely know about this. And those who have been reading a lot, even if you're in some other stream, you will be understanding this. Otherwise, these are two, 3 words, and this is what we need to do when we are reading. और एक particular technical words आते हैं किसी भी field के, उसे note down कर लो और उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा और पढ़ भी लेना. Precedes मैंने जैसे कहा था, this is a noun formation, right? Otherwise, इसका मतलब है ना profits and earnings, that is okay. But when it is in a verb formation, that means to proceed, right? That is to advance, to go ahead, right? This is the verb formation and precedes will always come with an S in a noun formation. Right? This is a small trick that I'm giving you. Implications, we have done the words. Implications are the effects or consequences, right? So outcome, we got this from the paragraph only. Now implication as a verb will be here, suggest. ठीक है मतलब imply. तो imply इसका verb है hint करना, right? To hint or to suggest, that is imply, implication. But here implications, we are talking about implications in the paragraph, that is the effect or the consequences or the outcomes. ठीक है repercussions भी हो सकता है. Next is be driven by. So whatever, suppose you are reading, right? Or you do not have the habit of reading novels and articles and all. So you were driven by what? मतलब what pushed you into reading now? ठीक है तो driven by some push or force that is given to you. उसे कहते हैं drive. उसे कहते हैं driven by. Passive formation है ये बस. Otherwise the drive comes from what? Right? The success. So it is like to be forced ahead or to be an engine too. Engine means आगे बढ़ना and the rest is going to follow. So you were driven by success in that manner. Ambiguity is the vagueness of the doubt or uncertainty. You can understand that that means it is lacking in clarity. Intervention we have done earlier also, just a few days back. We have the word inter. Inter means between. As a prefix, inter means between. Right? And when भी अपने पास एक root word होता है. तो intervene का मतलब होता है बीच में आना. So mediation हो जाएगा because you are interfering. It becomes intrusion. Intrusion comes from the word intrude. Right? Intrude, intruder यानी पार्टी आपकी चल रही है किसी ने गेट क्रैश किया तो those people will be the intruders. Right. Streamline is to make simple. The process is streamlined. Means the process has been made simpler, more systematic, and more organized. That is to streamline your any process. Right. You can streamline your thoughts also when you are disturbed, when you are upset. So sit and streamline your thoughts. तो पहले उनको पूरा systematic कर लो, सोचोगे, कुछ लिखोगे, तो then you will be able to figure out what exactly it is that is troubling you. Right? And adhere to, of course, you have understood this word adhere, adherence, or adhesive. Adhesive tape hota hai that the doctors use, no? So that is to stick to. And when you stick to something, that means you're abiding by the rules or you follow the customs or the rules. And therefore, the word adhere to is used. And that's how it is used. Right? So we are done with the reading and we are done with the vocabulary. Today, again, we do not have any extra shots. I'll be getting it on Friday or Saturday. So that's all for today. Thank you. See you tomorrow.